Well, Bill, you've just arrived at Del Mar. How did you ship?
Everything is good. We've been here for a day, and we've had 3/4 of the horses to the track. We've got one to go, and that'll be their first day on the track today, and so far everything looks good.
All right, let's run through a few of them because you've got a strong contingent here, and we'll start with Scylla in the filly and mare sprint, who was actually here at Del Mar over the summer, running a good second in the Clement Hirsch behind Adair Manor, who's a smart one from the Baffert barn. How will that experience of shipping west and experiencing the track here suit her, help her?
Well, Scylla actually ran very well over the track. I mean, she didn't seem to finish off the race at 1 1/16. Adair Manor seemed to be the better horse on that day, but she ran well and came back well, and we took her to Saratoga, and on 3 weeks rest she finished a very good second to a filly called Society, and she's done very well since. I mean, now she's had a little freshening, and looks like she's on top of her game and doing very well.
Yeah, and so it's been a couple of months since that win at Saratoga in the Ballerina. How will that sort of freshen up, help her?
Well, I think it should do nothing but benefit her. I mean, she's had some good works in between, so we're not worried about, it being too much time in between. We think that the freshening or the extra time, the extra month in between races should be good for her.
Nice one. Speaking of breaks, how's Arthur's ride enjoyed his break between runs since his last run?
Doing well. Even with him, we ran him back. He won the Whitney, and then 4 weeks later, we ran him in the Jockey Gold Cup. And the Whitney was a huge race. It might have taken a little something out of him. I mean, it might have, he might have regressed a little bit in that race, but he's bounced back well. He seems to be training well, feeling good, and he's fresh and fit and ready to go.
He's beaten a pretty accomplished field over this Breeders' Cup Classic distance. How much confidence does that give you heading into this race?
Well, we feel like he's capable of, the 10 furlongs. I mean, he's done it. He's got that, one of those wins in his record book. I mean, he's won going 1 1/4 already. And although it wasn't a grade 1 stake, but it was quite impressive. And then he came back and ran 1 1/4 in the Jockey Gold Cup. And that was probably a little bit of a dull race for him, but it was off of the 4 weeks rest, from the Whitney. And, I would be looking for improvement. I think I don't think that was, the real him. I think he's better than what he ran in the Jockey Gold Cup. So hopefully he'll bounce back and prove me right.
Hopefully so. What do you think of the whole City of Troy story coming over for Aidan O'Brien and trying the dirt and everything that's going into that?
Well, I'll give them a lot of credit. I mean, I think they're really true sportsmen. I think they're out to win the biggest races in the world, and they're not afraid to gamble a little bit. I mean, he obviously has proven, on the other surface, on the turf, and I think it takes a lot of sportsmanship to give it a try, on the dirt. I mean, nobody will ever know until they do.
Yeah, that's right. Well, he's certainly bred to manage the dirt anyway, so we'll see what happens, but you'll be trying to beat him with Arthur's ride, of course. And also in the BC filly in their turf, Warlike Goddess, returning to her own sex after taking on the boys the last couple of years in the turf. Can you compare your confidence levels here at Del Mar this year compared to the last 3 Breeders' Cups that she's been to?
Well, she's always shown up and she's always run well. I mean, she ran a super race here when she ran 3rd to the Japanese filly, when they ran the last Breeders' Cup here. And I mean, she ran really, really well, made a little bit, she might have been a little ranked that day and made a bit of a premature move and looked like a winner coming off the turn, and then, I think she was beaten a length, finished a good 3rd. But she's always shown up. She always gives a good account of herself. She's been a top mare, very good at the distance, the 1 3/8, the 1.5 miles. So she's proven that, and she's run well over this course before.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, and also a word on your juvenile fillies turf, Contender To Cyan.
Very good. You know, we broke her maiden against the boys in restricted company in New York. She beat the boys, but it was against New York breds. And then we ran in an open race. We ran in the grade 2, the Miss Grillo. And, you know, without any thoughts of anything, Breeders' Cup or anything in the future, I mean, we, you know, wanted to get a look at her in there, and she came out a winner. She ran very well. I was very happy with her, and it, you know, not only did she win, she looked good doing it, and it's a win in your in race. You know, her entry fees are paid, and so that gave us a leg up to come on out and give her a try here.
So it sounds like there's plenty of confidence with your contingent here for the Breeders' Cup.
We think we're doing good. You know, sometimes you come in and you're nervous about the way a horse is doing, if they're not doing well, or, you know, you've got soundness issues or whatever, and knock on wood, I mean, as of today, we're not there yet, but so far coming into it, we're doing quite well.
If you were to take a guess, do you know how many years it's been since your first Breeders' Cup win?
Well, that would have been in 1987, so you'd have to do the math for me, but...
I think 30, is that 37 years?